Hey everyone, this is Lizzie from It's a Veg World After All, and I'm so excited to make one of my favorite recipes for you today from my brand new cookbook, Vegetable Cookbook for Vegetarians. It's available for pre-order right now on Amazon, and it will be available wherever books are sold on November 10th, 2020. So make sure that you pick up a copy. Today, I'll be making the braised cabbage, apples, and white beans from the cookbook, which is one of my favorite recipes. It can be served either as a vegetarian main dish or as a side, and it comes together in under 30 minutes, all in one skillet. So let's go ahead and get started. First things first, we're going to need to shred the cabbage. You can buy pre-shredded cabbage at the store to save yourself a little bit of time, but if you just have a head of cabbage, I'll show you just how easy it is to shred it at home. I'm using a Savoy cabbage, and the recipe calls for about one small head, but I had a massive head of cabbage. So I'm just going to use half of the head. I already sliced it into half, and now I'm going to slice the half into half again. Once the core has been removed, you can just place it onto the cutting board and slice it into thin strips. So I'm using a Savoy cabbage, which you can use any type of cabbage, even red cabbage for this dish. That would actually probably add a beautiful color. Once you have the cabbage shredded, you're also going to want to cut up a couple apples. I like to use Pink Lady apples or Honeycrisp apples, but you can really use any variety that you have on hand. Then you're going to melt about 2 tablespoons of butter in a large skillet, and make sure it's one that has a lid because we're going to use that later on. Once that starts to get nice and melted and sizzling in there, you're going to add the shredded cabbage. All right, so you can see there's a ton of cabbage in here, but just like other leafy green vegetables, it's going to shrink down. So you'll want to give this about 3 to 5 minutes in the skillet, stirring occasionally to get the cabbage coated in that melted butter to help it shrink down before we move on to the next step. So once the cabbage is getting pretty tender and it's really nice and coated in the butter and has shrunk down a lot, then you can add the diced apples. So keep cooking this and stirring occasionally for about 2 to 3 more minutes until the apples start to soften. Now it's time for the braising. To do that, you're going to pour in some apple cider vinegar and water as well as a little bit of salt. So I use about a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, the same amount of water, and then usually I start with about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and you can adjust that at the end. So give that a nice stir to coat the cabbage and the apples in the apple cider vinegar, the water, and the salt. You'll start to see a little bit of liquid at the bottom of the pan. Okay, once everything is well coated, then you're going to put that lid on that I mentioned earlier in the video, and you're going to let this braise for a few minutes until everything is really tender and buttery, and then after that we're going to add the white beans. You'll just sprinkle them in, give everything a good stir, and then cook it for just a couple more minutes so that the beans will warm through. And there you have it. Once the dish is finished, dish it up, enjoy it. You can keep the leftovers in the fridge for a few days. You can even eat that cold or reheat it in the microwave. So that's it for today. For more recipes like this braised cabbage, apple, and white beans, make sure you get your copy of Vegetable Cookbooks for Vegetarians today.